I was on the phone with one of my we were in the process before all this crazy stuff happened, recording a documentary, and one of the guys was with me in LA in October when we were trying to, sort out sitting down with you then. And I think you were in Vegas at the time.
Yeah. I really don't even remember, but I was there but I was also in camp for one of my fights too. So yeah. It was rough.
I mean, you've had just in the last 6 months. We could start there. I mean, earlier today I was talking to a friend about how when things like this happen, I mean, obviously none of us have gone through a global pandemic, but we're able to see the character of people when adversity happens, and you're then able to kind of see and nitpick, oh, that person's never been through anything, or that person has character because they've been through shit and they've evolved from it. So with sticking, I guess, just with your opponents canceling on you and then preparing for a fight, talk about what that's like.
It wasn't even just that. Like, this is the first time in my career, like, something like this has ever happened. Not just with all the craziness of this pandemic, but 7 fights in the last 8 months that didn't happen for a number of different reasons. I had to, I asked for a release from the last company that I was fighting for because 6 fights fell through, and then I was able to sign with Glory and then book a fight May 30th, and then boom, all of this happened. And then about a month ago they were like, we're not doing Miami Glory. So I had another fight. That's 7 fights in a row in a matter of like eight months. So it's been tough, man. It's been really tough. And if I didn't have a job to fall back on and something to do, it would have been really rough for me. So, but I mean, like you said, I've been through a lot of hard things in my career, in my life. So this was just, it's mind over matter. It's just trying to figure out a way to get through it all. And for me, the most important thing was just my family. I have my family. They're good. They're healthy. And that's what I wanted. That's all I needed right now, was just to make sure they're safe and healthy, and I'm good. So.
That's a beautiful thing. We'll get to your family and how that matters to you and your personal life and career in a second. But before you came on, I was doing an intro for your episode, and I had to remind people that you were a world champion in 2010, the first female world champion in Bellator, 2-3 years before Ronda Rousey and the UFC. You're a pioneer of women's combat. You're a lifelong martial artist. Maybe talk about how, disregarding wins and losses and accolades and trophies, but the importance of martial arts in your life, what that's meant to you and how that's molded you into a woman.
Oh man. It's and not just martial arts, but it's sports. I've been an athlete all my life. So growing up in that and doing that, and with martial arts as a child too, it's taught me so much as far as discipline, staying structured, especially getting through the hard times, because in sports you're always gonna find that you're gonna have losses. I don't care who you are in any sport, and just becoming a better person and getting through those hard times has always been it's challenging, and I think that rolls over to anything you do in life. And for me, it's been good. It's been really good.
Yeah, my old roommate, she's a good friend of mine. She was the first female fighter from Australia to fight in the UFC, or Alex Chambers. And she's a sweetheart. She Astro girl, and living with her, I learned a lot about the psychology of a fighter. And I wanted to ask you about, what sort of personality type do you fall in? Because when Alex would win, it was never good enough. When she would lose, obviously, if winning wasn't good enough, when she would lose, I wouldn't be able to talk to her for weeks, because we're our most critical, I guess, we look at ourselves the hardest. How do you view winning and losing? And are you, would you call yourself a perfectionist?
Yeah, big time. That's exactly me to a T. Anytime I would lose, of course, I would pick apart every little thing that I did wrong, and it was always never good enough. And I got that from as a small child, because it was always never good enough. If I'm not winning first place, my dad would push me, and he would push me hard. And if you weren't first, you have to do something to make it better, and you have to be better, and you have to be good enough, and also in relationships too, I kind of, that's what I deal with as well, is never being good enough. So, and even in winning, like when I won that world title, it was like one of the things that my dad told me was, yeah, but you could have finished her in the first round. And I'm like, I just won a world title. Like, no woman in the world has fought at this caliber. This is like the biggest thing right now. Bellator was huge, for women in the entire tournament. And I'm like, I guess you're right. I guess I could have finished her in the first round if I would have had a little more time. But, and from that point on, it was always like, yeah, I guess I can do better. I can do better. And so it's a double-edged sword, because it's like, you'll never be good enough. So you're going to strive to be perfect. But then again, it's like when you do something great like that, it's like, oh man, you come down on yourself so hard, because you feel like, yeah, you could have done better, even though it's something amazing, but yeah, that's exactly me to a T, is perfection, trying to be the perfect athlete.
Your father was a black belt in, was it Taekwondo?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question to you then is, you being, having your career and being a pro athlete, and your father, pushing you like that, do you do the same with your sister Stephanie? What's that relationship like?
It's a little different. It's a little different because we grew up different. So she was never really an athlete as a child. So our parents divorced when she was young. So the only person she really had to look to was me. I've been an athlete all my life. She was actually a chubby little kid when she was smaller. I grew up the athlete. I grew up in a different time and different schools, and it was just a little tougher. So I never really pushed her. It was more competition. It was always like, I was gonna, as she was coming up, it was just beating her. I'm bigger, I'm stronger. I had a big sister complex. So for me, it was always, okay, well, you're a competition. I never really saw her as my little sister. And it's brought her out to be a pretty badass, but then again, I think she doesn't like it so much anymore, but yeah, I never really pushed her like that. I would say it's just, for me, it was more selfish reasons, because I was just competitive and, I had a big complex. But I mean, it's done good for her. She's great.
For sure. She's a pro. I mean, it's you need that. I think that a lot of people who don't have either that upbringing, I hear people all the time say billionaires' kids or rich people's kids, they don't ever accomplish. You don't see them accomplish because they don't have that drive. They don't have that push. They've never been put into that corner to have to work for something. I was looking. People forget, man. I was looking at your resume. Aguiar, Penne, Misha Tate, Jessica I. You fight in you MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai. You're able to blend these different techniques in different total sports against the best of the best. Where you are now with whatever your goals and dreams are for the next 10 years of your life, having that experience, just that life experience. Talk about that as a positive. What does that mean to you?
Oh man, it's just it's that never give up attitude. It's always, I've always done my best facing let's see, how do I say this? I've always done my best when the odds have always been stacked against me. So I think that taking that over to everything I do in life has done really well. I've done really well for myself when it comes to that. So I don't know, it's just been a positive thing for me to have to go through so much in this sport and to overcome it. So it's just, I've always had this never give up attitude. It's never been an option to quit. So, and I've been able to carry that over into everything I do in life.
You mentioned you were working. What is that a career you've had on the down, like behind the scenes this whole time, or is this something you adapted into? What's the other career?
Yeah, well, my mom has her business. It's a tax service. She's a tax preparer, and that's what we do. So she's been doing it for 25 years, and every tax season, I have my tax license as well. So I'll come in and I'll help her, and it usually helps me throughout the year if I don't like this, have fights, So I've been doing that too for the last maybe 6 years since I've been back in California.
Do you do any coaching?
I do. I coach, well, not now because the gym is closed, but I've been coaching every day for the last maybe 9 years.
What's that? Obviously, that's a passion of yours as well. let's talk about the contrast of maybe your coaches. I mean, you're at Dream Killers camp, right? Bonos. I always meant not team.
Combat Sports Academy. Yep.
Yeah, combat sport, and you got some of the best coaches in the world there, and it seems like a family. Talk about the contrast though of you getting prepped for a fight, and then maybe you working with a fighter who you're helping get ready for a fight. Talk about the difference of the mindset for you, coach versus athlete.
You know, everybody's different, and when it comes to women and men, we are completely different when it comes to athletes and as fighters. So it really depends on the person.
So sorry to interrupt. When you say completely different, are you talking like the motivators, internal drivers?
The motivators, what we fight for, women are emotionally driven. So we are completely different when it comes to, getting into deep water. We're especially when it comes to what we're motivated by too. Men, it's completely different. I don't know how to exactly explain it.
I grew up with all sisters, and my two older sisters, I played sports my whole life, played at a high level in college, but my two older sisters were better athletes than me. They used to beat me up. And when you talk about those differences, I'm talking when your kids beat me up. I'm talking, and when you talk about this, Suzanne was a savage. There's differences though, and I talk about this with my girlfriend all the time. I'm very open to talk about how I think men, like, we don't like kind of like want overcoming too much when it comes to like the physical pain. We kind of will show our cards, but I've seen, like, there was a fight I was watching. I forget her name. It might have been Carmouche a couple years ago when she won. She just growled, and it sounded like something out of like the safari in Africa. I never heard. It was like a noise that I never heard. And I just like, holy shit, dude. So maybe that's the differences. Yeah, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for me, I mean, I can't speak for other women, but I feel like from what I've seen and for the women that are close to me, I think a lot of us are emotionally driven. We fight for different reasons, and when it comes to being an athlete too, and being in a male dominant sport, it takes it to a whole new level. So, I mean, a lot of men are always like, they're always crying after you guys win. It's like, we put so much emotion into this. We are emotional creatures. You have to understand. Not only are we emotional creatures, but we're athletes on top of that, and we're trying to compete at the highest level. It's gonna take a lot to get there, and then and when you win or when you lose, you're just, everything comes out, emotionally. So it's crazy, man, and to witness it when I'm coaching people, and then for myself too, it's a crazy experience.
Do you ever get used to the walkouts? Do you ever get used to the bright lights? Was there ever a moment in your career where you're like, all right, I got this down, I'm cool? Or is it just chaos every time?
I would say for me, it's been chaos every time. I mean, I've been doing it professionally for about 11 years. Well, no, it has been 11 years. And it's different every time I walk out. But those butterflies are always there. Those nerves are always there. And I feel like if that ever leaves me, it's probably time for me to be done. But it's good. I feel like it keeps me sharp. So, but yeah, that crazy feeling is always there.
There was a documentary, I think it was out like 2007 or 6, right after George St. Pierre became George St. Pierre. And it was all about this behind the scenes footage of following him around Canada and him being kind of mentored by, do you remember, was it David Loaza?
Yep.
And I'll never forget, because they talked about how Loaza in the gym was the best. He was the guy. The documentary actually started about him and not George. And then as they're filming, they lost 2 in a row. And my question to you is, the bright lights in the kind of the moments, do you have any, are you able to identify that in either your students or your opponents? Were you ever able to tune in on that and be like, oh, the pressure's getting to this person, let me just do my thing? What's that like?
It took a while for me to be able to read that in people and in myself as well. But I don't know, it's usually before that. Like I can tell during weigh-ins, like if somebody is there to fight or if somebody's scared shitless and is just doing it because, they're going through the motions. But I think after all these years of doing it, like you can read that in people. Well, for myself, I can. And I don't know, what was the question?
Well, my question, you answered it. Being able to read it, because one of my favorite things to do is I write for like an MMA website, and I will put bets and predictions on after the weigh-in. So I sometimes will love watching the weigh-in before the fight, and I'm looking at one of my favorite authors is a guy who writes about nonverbal communication, Robert Greene. He's been on the show before. He's written 48 Laws of Power. He's written Art of Seduction, and he talks about how to win rooms without saying words, but using people's mannerisms, body language, as a skill for yourself. You know, if you want to get that job interview, if you want to win a fight, sort of thing. So the being able to see that, and I look at that sometimes when I'm betting, like seeing who's going to win a fight, and it's probably like 80% of the time you could tell. And some fighters have a history of kind of, I don't know. I mean, I'll never know what it's like. I mean, dude, that high stress problem solving sort of career that you've chosen to do. Would you call yourself an adrenaline junkie?
Oh, big time.
You do tactical stuff, don't you?
I do that.
Arms?
Yeah, I do that. And then before I actually started fighting, I rode motorcycles. I would snowboard, water ski. Like, I was an adrenaline junkie. I mean, I still want to skydive. I haven't done that. I still want to skydive. Like, there's so many things that it's just like, what's going to get my heart pumping, whatever is super dangerous, and I got to do it. But now the next thing for me is shooting. Like, I love that. And if I'm like this every single time. So anything to get me going like that, I'm all for it.
That's awesome. What do you do for your recovery? What do you do for like recovery in the sense of your physical recovery, also like mental recovery?
I used to float. I haven't floated in forever. Cryotherapy. I usually would come here. Right now I'm at my hometown. I was born and raised in Madera, California, and this is where my parents live. And I live in Dublin, which is 2 hours away. But I've actually been here the last month and a half since we've been quarantined, and just to make sure they're safe and to work and all that stuff. So, but my recovery would be to come here, just relax, be by my family. I have like recovery boots. I go to cryotherapy. I do the ice baths every now and then. Saunas, yoga. Hot yoga has been a huge thing when it comes to recovery for me, mentally, physically. That's it, really.
I mean, it's a lot. Yeah. I always get like a mixed bag. Some people will say nothing, and some people will have. I'm kind of obsessed right now with how to optimize the recovery side of my physical body. So like the float tank, dry sauna, acupuncture, all that. I've been doing like yin yoga, just learning how to release the hip flexors, like long holds, because our joints get really messed up. Have you been, so now with the Glory fight falling through and everybody's in hold, especially in California, are there any sort of news from your camp when you might fight again, or who you might fight with, or what's that like?
No clue. We probably won't have any events for a while here. They're talking about maybe the end of the year. So it's like, for me, I'm like, oh God, that's a long time. So I don't know, like our gym probably won't even be open for another month and a half. And,
really?
And even then, and even then, I don't think that they're still going to try to practice the social distancing. We're not going to do any sparring, no grappling, none of that. Damn. Even after they open up. So it's just a really weird spot to be in right now. Though I do have my sister. I mean, I can always spar with her here. I can always grapple with her. I can. It's nice to have somebody that's my level, size, everything. So but other than that, like, who knows? Like, it's all up in the air right now. I have no idea. So the only thing I can try to do is just try to stay as ready as possible until our gyms open up again, and yeah, we can go for it.
Are you the type of fighter to take a fight on a short notice? Like, if somebody called you tomorrow, I'll be like, hey Zola, we need a straw weight or a flyweight, or would you take a fight?
If it's possible. For me, I've always cut a lot of weight no matter what weight division I fight in. So depending on the weight class, I would have to know somewhat ahead of time. But I mean, I would fight anybody in any weight class. So if it was a featherweight fight. If it was a bantamweight fight, then I could do it. But I would need at least a month to fight in my weight class.
Okay. And where do you stand on, I mean, because I grew up in Northeast Ohio near Cleveland, and I've been in Australia for about September will be 7 years. So watching everything globally with COVID-19 and even like, you know, the States, people, basically the United States is 50 different countries, you know, depending on where you are. I lived in Long Beach for 7 years. You got Georgia opening their doors, people going to barbershops, tattooing. Florida's its own thing. Ohio's still locked down. California's locked down. Where's your frustration lie at? Are you the type of person like, let's stay in lockdown, let's see what happens? Or you're like, you know what, let's just take a risk? Where do you stand?
If it was just me, I would say let's take a risk. But I have older family members. You know, I have my parents. I have. I mean, it's not harming babies too much right now. But I have nieces and nephews, and for me, I would say open up. But it's not just about me right now, and I don't care so much about me. It's more about everybody else that I love that's around me. So I would like to see everything stay, you know, locked down until things are better. But that's just me. But I'm thinking about everybody else. I'm not really thinking about myself when it comes to this. I don't want to see it get worse, and I don't want to see anybody close to me, you know, deal with any huge issues like that. And I don't know. That's just me though. So.
Yeah, all of your fans and everyone who knows you, they know the importance family has on you and how you carry yourself as a person and a professional athlete. Maybe the people who don't know you watching this and listening to this, maybe give everyone insights or advice on how to overcome these moments. Maybe they've never had adversity like this. And, you know, you're a pro fighter. No one's better to ask you for advice on how to overcome adversity. So maybe leave us with that.
I think for me, it's always just taking things day by day, to live in the moment, man, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, you know, and to not live in the past and not the things that have happened and the things, that you can't change, you know. When you do that, you stress yourself out so much more. And I've done that in the past too. And that's never good for your health. So I would say to live in the moment and as hard as it is to focus on the things that you're grateful for, the things that are positive in your life, and just to try to stay focused as much as you possibly can on that, you know. That's it, really.
Awesome. Zoila, thanks for doing this with me. It's finally awesome to sit down with you and pick your brain on some stuff, and stay safe. And I can't wait to see you fight again.
Thank you. You too.
All right. See you later.
Bye.